Yo ho 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 ho! What is going on, guys? Let's jump into it. The Forbidden Sanctum. Oh, am I excited! This is looking super, super fun. It's looking Sentinel tier, which I would give a 9 out of 10. If everything goes according to plan, which who knows? It could be shit. But from the trailer, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, the crossover of Hades, of Slay the Spire, of all the roguelikes that we enjoy with PoE is something that I've been wanting forever. And it looks like they've done it in a really, really fun, engaging way. The intricacies that this is going to involve, I'm super duper excited for this league mechanic. I didn't realize how powerful a good league mechanic is into keeping you engaged in the game. But I mean, because the lakes were terrible. They were absolutely trash. They were unrewarding. They were lazy, uninspired. Where this looks like you can really, sink your teeth into it. And it looks rewarding. There's a great sort of like risk reward structure, kind of similar to Ultimatum. I couldn't be more excited. There's new bosses to explore, so you're going to be able to fight a bunch of new enemies. New power creep with these sanctified relics that work on your character outside of these sanctums. It also doesn't penalize any different builds. So melee builds that are up closer. First of all, there's this resolve system that is separate from your life, and that is what accounts for you failing the sanctum. And the closer you are to the enemy or whatever hits you, the less resolve you lose. So you're not penalized for choosing a more, I guess, like intensive build. There's just so many cool things about it. I can't wait. I cannot wait to check it out. It looks super fun and rewarding. I mean, some of the rewards that they're talking about, the way that it kind of stacks up and will get progressively more rewarding. And then if your luck pays off, or if you're good enough, you get to the end, you get that big payout. That's going to be super fun. I can't wait. It looks really, really good. But that's not all. I mean, I've seen people talking on Reddit about how this league looks trash or that it's not exciting. I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know. Maybe they watched a different reveal, but I'm very excited for this. The second thing that I'm excited about is the Atlas passive changes. So they've changed a few things about the Atlas tree. Supposedly, they're making it a lot easier to spec into the league mechanics that you want to, and making them a little bit more deterministic on how they kind of appear in your maps. That's great. They're also changing the way that the incentive structure to running a certain altar over, the Maven Witness bosses. So now you can kind of do both, and you're not sacrificing too much. Also, on both sides, there were the Wrath of the Cosmos, which greatly improved the rewards from your altar, but that would require you to go to both sides of the tree. And because there are certain league mechanics on different sides, it kind of fucked you up a little bit. But that's also being reworked. So that's a really great change. I'm excited to check that out. There's also like awakened gems that can drop from map bosses now, which makes just running map bosses, Maven Witness map bosses, a good strategy. On top of that, there's so much more. On top of that, we have something that's really exciting because I'm going to be playing SSF for the first time fully through this league. I've never done this before. I've always started in trade and then moved to SSF. This is the first time I'm actually going to just start in SSF. I'm going to log the whole journey. I'm going to do I saw Lighty did this build thing that I think looks really cool. So he put up a bunch of league start builds on here, and he flips a coin, and then he chooses which build he's going to start with. And I think I'm going to do the same. I think I'm just going to steal his idea because I think this is like a great way. I don't know what to play, and I think this is going to be a great way to figure out what to play. So I'm going to steal this idea. I'll do the video. That should be up in a couple days, but let's just keep going. So yeah, there's this new Atlas memory, which is the Bestiary Atlas memory, and this allows you to capture harvest bosses, which gives you the power of those harvests in the Bestiary. So you're gonna be able to like re-roll Watcher Eye modifiers, which is insane for SSF. I think it's insane for anything, but specifically more so SSF. You can re-roll Awaken gems, which is awesome. I wonder how much there is awaiting on them. I'm assuming the drop chances for the Awaken gems is probably the same weighting, but re-rolling into like Awaken Spell Echo or Awaken GMP or whatever. That's going to be awesome. You can reroll synth implicits, which is going to be really cool. You get a bow, like a thicket bow with a synth base or a synth implicit, and you can reroll it and hopefully hit something good like extra arrows. Insane. There's also this one with the shrines, but I mean, I don't really know what they mean. Like, there's supposedly different rewards for these shrines. We'll see. It could be cool. I don't really know. The next thing is the fracturing orb. So instead of needing to get both the life force for the harvest as well as the seed, whatever that silver seed is, the T4 seed or whatever, you just get these fracturing shards, and that will create a fracturing orb, and that will let you fracture an item with 4 modifiers on it. Now, the question is how common this will be. I'm hoping, and I really think GGG might do this, because if we go back and we think about the Recombinator situation, obviously Recombinators, just from hearing about them, they're obviously insanely broken. And yet GGG spit those things out like candy. I mean, you had so many I still have hundreds of Recombinators in Standard. So I'm hoping that they kind of do the same thing with the Fracturing Orb. It's just let this be a crafting league, because the amount of power that you would get if you could reliably fracture your best mod on each item slot, that is an extreme amount of value, which it would just really shake up the economy, shake up the way we kind of look at itemization, and it would be really fun to play around with that. But if they're like extremely rare, like mirror tier rare, where you're just like getting 1 or 2 a league, that's not fun. Don't care about that. But again, this is farmable, so you're gonna be able to spec into Harbinger and farm these fragments. So it's probably gonna be pretty common. That's what I'm assuming. And that's what I'm gonna go on and be excited about. Okay, don't rain on my goddamn parade. All right, what else do we have here, man? I have just so much stuff here. The new skills. We have new skills coming out. They both look pretty cool. I'm more excited about this volcanic fissure one, which is like a cross between Molten Strike as well as Tectonic Slam. This looks super fun to play with, so I'm definitely gonna try this skill out in some way. I was thinking about league starting this, but the problem is that I did a practice run with Marauder and Tectonic Slam, and it was not fun. It was not a good time. So I don't know if I'll league start it, but I'm definitely going to give it a go. I mean, it looks really strong. The amount of effective damage that comes from just one slam. I mean, you're getting the hit from the slam, the fissures itself, like the actual sort of like a river fissure thing, that hits. There's an explosion at the end that hits, and then each one of these balls can hit. And if we look at, I guess, this frame here, we can see that 3 balls do overlap right there. Right? We can see that's 3 hits. Now they do 50% less damage, but nonetheless, you're getting all of this effective added damage with just one slam. So it could be really strong. And on top of that, it has a Vol version, which they showed recently. And here, let me bring it up here. But this Vol version looks really cool too, because it effectively helps the clear out, which is probably not the best thing that you're going to need, but here it is. So that's the Vol Caustic Arrow. There's 6 new Vol skills or 8 new Vol skills. And it kind of just pierces everything and leaves like a big sort of floor of caustic ground. And then we have this one. This is Volcanic Fissure, where it just keeps going. It just keeps like blowing shit out. And now he doesn't attack while this goes off, but you can still keep attacking. You know what I mean? Like it looks like a pretty damn good Vol attack skill for sure. So that looks awesome. All of this stuff there looks really cool. The other skill looks really cool. Looks a little bit clunky, but it looks like it's going to be extremely strong. I mean, talking about effective added damage, this is a lot of added damage that you're getting from one button press. 6 of these clones use your attack weapon, and they all attack at the same time. Now, there's a cooldown that's in place. So it is cooldown based. So you're probably going to want another attack skill to supplement. But, I mean, you press a button and you're doing, I don't know, fucking 500-600% effective added damage. Whatever the added damage is. I don't even really know. I didn't look at the gem, but it's going to be good. It's going to be strong. Really, really strong. Yeah, and then there's all the new Vol melee skills. Here's Vol Cleave, which steals the headhunter. It's a headhunter, basically. So you steal the buffs from any rares that you kill with Vol Cleave. And we can see up here, it's lasting 22 seconds. And that will be affected by duration as well. So you can scale duration. You can keep that thing going for a really long time. It buffs your main cleave. It also gives you the headhunter stack, so it takes all the modifiers. Now, I don't think it's going to refresh modifiers, or I don't think it's going to keep adding modifiers, but I could be wrong. I mean, if it's essentially a headhunter, every attack build is going to use this. Imagine just having a headhunter at all time. This is Vol. This is a really cool Vol skill. This is Vol Flicker Strike, which you press it and it just flickers on every enemy in the area and then kills them all at once in like some sort of like, anime fashion. Really cool looking skill. This is cool. I think it's 25 attacks and they all just kind of fall by the wayside. And then against one enemy, it just attacks it 25 times. That's pretty cool. The new Vol stuff looks cool. There's a couple other things like Vol Molten Strike. What are the other Vol skills? There's Vol Cleave, Flicker, Blade Flurry, Venom Gyre, Molten Strike, Caustic Arrow, and Smite, as well as Volcanic Fissure. So that's gonna be awesome to see. I mean, just new Vol skills is essentially new skills, right? So that's gonna be really fun to play around with. So then we have that. We have new skills. We have new uniques coming, and some of these uniques look fucking broken as fuck. So Captain Lance put out a video about the Darky Flask, about how it's basically giving you added petrified blood effect. So with petrified blood plus recoup plus this flask, you're gonna be able to really be safe against any sort of hit. That's gonna be insane. There's these Gucci gloves, from Gucci Pradas, that give you spell impale, 100% impale chance with critical strikes of spells. So things like fucking Reap, right? Things like Blade Fall, Blade Vortex, Seismic Trap. These are all gonna now have fucking impale. I mean, that's extremely strong, and it grants Call of Steel, so you don't have to waste a stupid gem on it. And then this one gives you a linger, consecrated ground linger and profane ground linger. If your it depends on if your strength and int is at the highest attribute. So what you want to do is you want to get your strength and int as your highest attributes, and you want them tied. You're gonna get consecrated ground that lingers and profane ground that lingers. And if you factor in with leadership's price, you're also gonna be able to have leadership's price, which is going to give you brittle, which is going to give you sap, which is going to give you scorch. All conflux, by the way. So all of your damage. And this seems insane. This seems absolutely insane. The amount of like strength that combo alone is going to bring, and not being relegated to just having to be Inquisitor, being able to do it on Elementalist, on Occultist with power charge stacking. The possibilities are just endless with that combo. Really excited to play around with that, theorycraft with that. So we have a bunch of uniques. They didn't show all of them, so I'm sure we'll get a couple more throughout the week. But they just showed us a few so far. And then they buffed a bunch of old uniques like Disfavor, like Starforge. There's a bunch of old uniques buffed. Now they made them really rare. They said they made them Mage Blood rare. I don't really know what that means. I'm assuming, essentially because you can target farm some of these, I'm assuming they're about as going to be as rare as like an Omni, an Ashes, Doriani's, which is relatively rare. They're going to be pretty expensive, but they're not going to be 300, 400 divines expensive like Mage Blood. Specifically because people will find these and they will sell them, and not every build is going to utilize them. Some builds, there's probably going to be a few builds that aren't going to use any of them. Right, so they will be affordable somewhat. So the rarity doesn't really matter. What really kind of sucks about that is in SSF. So, as long as we'll be able to farm them, I don't really mind too much. But some of these buffs are insane. I mean, the Soul Taker buff is pretty cool, and then Kingmaker got a buff. We also got buffs to Lionized Glare. There's a Starforge buff. I mean, they basically just doubled the physical damage on Starforge, which is great. They doubled the let's see if I can bring it up. On Void Forge, they doubled the Fizz conversion to I think 700%. So I mean, they just doubled From 300 to 700%, they doubled the physical conversion on Void Forge. Now, it loses the fizz damage, but that doesn't matter. I mean, if you're doing 700% conversion, extra conversion, I shouldn't say conversion, it's extra damage. That's wild. I mean, the Rage Vortex Void Forge build is already extremely strong, does extreme amounts of damage. With 700% of that, that's crazy. That's insane. Other things they buffed were they buffed Beano's a little bit. Disfavor got a crazy buff with plus 30% quality to socketed support gems, along with buffing the shit out of the fizz damage, along with giving it 10 weapon range, which someone on Reddit did a comparison, which was really cool, that shows you just the difference between what having Disfavor and what not having Disfavor is. Let me see if I can find it really quick. But you can see there's just a massive difference in radius when you use something with that much weapon range. I can't see it here. Yeah. I can't find it now, but they put it up there. Go check it out. See if you can find it. Someone did it with Cyclone, and it was really interesting to see the difference there. I don't know. I can't be. I don't find it. All right. Anyways, moving on. There's more. We're not even done. We're not even close. We're like halfway. Oh, the next thing, right? The next big thing. Arch Nemesis is finally gone. Yay, they've done it. They've replaced it with just a simple rare system. And I think people are underestimating how massive of a change this is. Just look at this, like, let's just take a look at a rare. Like that, there's just one rare right there, right? Just one rare, right? One rare. What does that rare do? Let's go back a little bit. This rare, all this rare does is extra fire damage and exposure, and it's hasted. Okay? It doesn't have Flame Weaver, Soul Conduit, and it's not touched, and it's not boosted by the map mods. It's just extra fire damage and exposure, and it's hasted. Okay? Very simple. This is a massive, massive change that is going to, it just buffs everything, basically. It buffs everything. It makes the game quite a bit easier. You know, Arch Nemesis was extremely oppressive, especially once you started to get into yellow maps, like in the early mid game. Once you started to really push your progression, it was extremely oppressive and just so annoying to deal with. Enemies were just so much. They were just too much. There was too much stuff on them. They would have max res, recovery, spell and attack block, extra damage, extra life, extra fizz conversion, and it would all stack on top of each other. And I don't know why GGG ever thought that was a good idea. It was just far too oppressive. And I know a lot of people towards the end of the league were like, oh, well, Arch Nemesis ended up getting fine once it was nerfed. No, it got fine because it was nerfed and your player is at the end of the game. When you restart a run, you notice how oppressive Arch Nemesis is. It also limits what type of builds you can do because you're so worried about, you know, how much defense can I get to stay alive, along with I need enough offense to be able to kill these things quickly enough. It was just very limiting in build diversity and in the scope of the game. So them kind of going back to the original system, I think, is a great change, and they should be. We should give them props for doing that, because I know they really didn't want to at first, but I think ultimately they realized, you know what, the players are right. It just seems like they're not having fun with it. It's too oppressive. I think we went too far on this. We got to just bite our ego and we got to remove it. And, you know, to the one guy, by the way, that implemented that, you know, hats off to you for reverting it, because it is necessary. All right, other things that I'm excited about. There's so many things. Hex buffs. All right, so hexes got buffed. Hexes and curses got buffed. So initially, bosses would have this hex penalty on them. So hexes and curses did like 66% less effect on them. You were getting pretty much nothing out of your curse. that was just completely removed it. They've just removed it, and that's all you need to know is they removed the hexes. So while some builds that specialize in curse and curse effect, they might have things a little bit trickier. I don't know exactly how much damage they gain or lose, but the rest of the build environment just straight up benefits from this. So you're lowering the power of Arch Nemesis, or just rare monsters, I should say. Lowering the power of the overall ambiance of enemy that you're encountering, and you're increasing the power of the hex and the curse against rares, uniques, pinnacles. So very, very good change there. I don't know exactly, like, I haven't paid too much attention to like how much the numbers are across all of the changes of curses. But I honestly don't even care at this point. I don't even care. Whatever. It could be exactly the same and I wouldn't care. Another great change is that strike skills have been added to the mastery, the strike mastery. Now this is a good change, but it's not amazing. At least until we see the full passive tree. Actually, we have seen the full passive tree. So this isn't the greatest change in the world, but it is a start in the right direction of getting strikes in melee into a good area. So instead of Tribal Fury giving you strikes, give you one additional strikes target one additional enemy. It's now going to give you splash damage. So you're gonna get splash damage on the tree, which is excellent. But you're all, and there's no penalty on this. It's just straight up strike skills deal splash damage. But the strike skills are going to be into the strike mastery. Now this is good news for a couple builds, but not every build, not yet at least. So assassin and any sort of witch strike, and even inquisitor for a little bit. But if we take a look, I guess I can go to PoE planner. Not sure exactly. How do I look at a tree? If we take a look at this cluster here, this is a strike cluster that you're going to be able to benefit from quite early for if you're a ranger. This is one right here. And then I guess if you're Inquisitor, the closest one you have would be this strike mastery. If we can search attack mastery, how do I do that here? Yeah. So we can see there's a big problem here that needs to be addressed. How all of the strike masteries are basically just concentrated right here. I would like to see a strike cluster closer to Inquisitor, and I would love to see one up by Assassin or by Shadow. But for now, this one is the closest to Inquisitor or any sort of like top level build, and then this one is the closest to Ranger, and that will give you the +1 strikes, which is going to help out a lot until you get those extra added strikes on your gloves, which is quite expensive, right? You can get one added strike pretty cheaply, but to get 2 added strikes is quite expensive. So having that there, usually if you were any sort of strike as Ranger, Raider, Deadeye, Pathfinder, you had to path all the way. This is what you would normally do. You would take, say we're Deadeye, right? We're doing some, I don't know, Molten Strike Deadeye thing. You'd path all this, you would take all your crit shit. You're probably going to do some sort of claw-based thing. So you had to go all the way up here. You'd have to get the leech. You're going to take spell suppression. You're going to take this life wheel here, right? You're going to take this cluster here. You're going to take all this stuff. And then you would have to look at all these. Look at all this. You'd have to take all this. You're going to take this. You're probably going to take Panopticon, which we'll talk about. And then in order to get the Tribal Fury, you still have to go all the way over here to get this. And none of these really did anything for you. They gave you a little bit of range, I think. That was about it. But now all you have to do is just go right here. Boom. You don't even have to path over here if you don't want to. You can anoint Panopticon. You can cut all of that out. And you can stay all up here if you wanted to. You can go all the way up here if you need to. You can go all the way over here if you need to. Just really kind of opening up the strike passive tree for Ranger, which I think is great. I mean, that's a really great change. That extra strike is massive. I mean, you have to have it. You literally have to have the extra strike as a strike skill in this modern era. So yeah, you can grab that. And then if you're Inquisitor and you're doing some sort of strike, which isn't many people, you're probably going to want to grab the one that's here. The one that's there. So I think that's a great change. I want melee to be great. It's the archetype that I really love, and it's the archetype that I play the least because it's so fucking bad. Melee splash on tree. That's the other good one. The nerfs are good. I think the nerfs are good. I think they nerf things pretty well. People are crying about lightning strike being dead. It ain't dead. Okay, it's still double hits. Which is, where most of the damage comes from. Lightning strike still double hits, and it still spits out 2 additional proj. You're probably gonna get 4 additional proj, right? Instead of whatever the number was, 18, 19 additional proj. You're gonna get 4 additional proj for your strikes with the lab helmet as well as just the gem. But you're also striking 2 extra enemies, at least in endgame. So that's 12 right there. That's 12 projectiles right there. Just straight up 12 projectiles right there. That's plenty for the clear. It's also now still double striking. They didn't remove that. I thought for sure double strike, or the double hit where you're hitting with the projectile plus the melee portion. I thought for sure that was going to be gone. It's not. It's still there. So it's still going to be strong. The thing that they kind of fucked it with it was the Nightblade nerf, which I thought was a bit. I think they're going to have to redo Nightblade. I think the way that they nerfed Nightblade and Withering Step, I think they should just redo Nightblade. So Nightblade gives you crit multi based upon your elusive effect. So what you would do is scale your elusive effect, and you would also, on top of that, use Withering Step to refresh your elusive. So you're always around like 150% of elusive effect, giving you a metric shit ton of crit multi. But I think Nightblade, I'm just wondering how many people are going to use it if there's that much of a gradual sort of fall off of damage. I just don't think it's that strong in that sense. There's probably a much stronger way to do it, to give you a more consistent level of damage. You can lower the overall damage, but at least make it consistent. I mean, I would value that more. So yeah, it's weird. The way that they did the Withering Step nerf is kind of odd, but I guess it's the one way to do it where they nerf both Helix and Lightning Strike. I'm not sure. And Helix also got a nerf. Helix got hit pretty hard. I mean, it basically lost 100% of its effective added damage at level 20. That's pretty heavy. It still has added physical damage on top of it. I'm not exactly sure how much. Let me see. Spectral Helix has at level 20 has. Oh no, it doesn't. No, it just loses all of its damage. Yeah, so Helix is not looking so hot. It's not looking so hot. And Lightning Conduit got nerfed. It was just doing, I guess, too much damage. I don't know. I think it was fine. I really don't think Lightning Conduit needed a nerf. This is just GGG just kind of being overzealous again. Just saying, we don't want you playing it anymore. Too many of you played it. Go play something else. That's usually what GGG does, which I'm fine with. I'm okay with that. All right. Fuck. There's more, guy. There's absolutely more. Onslaught. Okay? Onslaught, which for some reason, I didn't know this. Actually, I did know this, but I didn't. It never really. I don't know. It never really clicked with me. But Onslaught is its own buff. So modifiers to buff effect, unless it specifically said buffs Onslaught, it wouldn't affect Onslaught. So what they did was they said, okay, now Onslaught can be affected by buff effect, which is excellent. That's great. That's a great change. So any modifier to buff effect, anything that buffs your effects, well, my Onslaught can now be buffed. That's good news. We also have poison isn't bugged anymore. So there was a fix the bug where modifiers to the duration of bleeding or poison on you could not apply to bleeding or poison, which was a skill duration. And this is a buff to puncture or viper strike. And then there's also this one. Fix the bug where modifiers that make ailments deal damage faster incorrectly lowered the duration of poisons twice. Okay. Which is what? Okay. Resulting in lowering total damage dealt over the lifetime of the poison debuff. Also fixed this issue from bleeding from the puncture skill. So puncture was just completely fucked. Puncture was a completely fucked thing. Vulnerability wasn't even working with the faster damage. Just anything that did damage faster just seems to not work. And that's fixed, at least on the poison side and the puncture side. the amount of damage you're getting out of this is just insane, right? Just a straight up more multiplier. As long as like faster poison is still available and it works, it's just a straight up more multiplier. Faster poison is an excellent way to boost your DPS. It's an excellent way to boost your DPS. So that's excellent. Any poison based skill is going to benefit greatly from that. That's a good change. It might be a little too good, in fact. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Tainted Fusing's got a buff. The Tainted Fusing Orb, which is one of the best ways to get a 6 link. You buy a 6 socket, 5 link, or even a 4 link, and you just, vol fusing it, and then you just hit it with a Tainted Fusing, and you 50-50 it, either hits or not. Well, it was more like it was a lot lower than a 50-50 in last league, but it looks like they're buffing it to what it was in Scourge, which was around a 50-50. At least that's what it says here, right? Reintroducing tainted currency items, the chances for different outcomes were rebalanced to be more appropriate. The new odds for tainted fusings made it hard to justify using one on your gear. We've changed the outcome odds for tainted fusings to be more favorable to match where they were in Scourge, which was essentially 50-50. That's huge. That is absolutely huge for SSF players. Beyond is good again. Let's go. Let's get beyonding. I can't wait. What's great about these type of currencies, the corrupted currencies, is that when you're in SSF, at least, all of the uniques that you find, the semi-strong ones, you just throw those in the temple, or you just throw a Vol Orb on them. If they hit something good, you have an item that you can use, and you don't have to worry about linking it until way later. Until way later. All you have to do is just get the Vol Orbs for it, and then you just 5-link it in the bench, throw a fucking Tainted Orb of Fusing on it, hope for the best. Not bad. What else we got? The totem lingers. Ancestor totem now lingers. So this is good and bad. Added a new totem mastery where the buff from totems linger for 3 seconds. So this gets rid of the problem where every fucking melee build has to put a totem down, and as soon as it dies, because they're so weak, because you're not speccing into totems, you're just using them for buff effect, your buffs go away. But now they can die, and for 3 seconds, you have the buff. I would love to see melee completely decoupled from totems. I hate it. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. But at the very least, this is an okay step in the right direction. This should be like 5 to 8 seconds. 3 seconds is whatever. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We don't make the game, And then lastly, there's a bunch of... So we're finally at the end. There's a bunch of other quality of life things like... I don't know. I don't need to go over them. If you want, head over to the patch notes. There's a couple quality of life things that are pretty cool. Like you could just right click on a temple to see the layout. You can right click on a what is it called? A divine vessel, and it'll just add it. You don't have to go to the fucking Act 6 to go see Sin to have him put it on. Which I always thought was kind of cool. It's always like, hey, what's up, Sin? Nice to see you again, buddy. Can you help me out with this orb thing that I got? This soul that I stole? All right. Things that I don't like. All right. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. It's not perfect. We're not talking the 10 out of 10 league here. We're saying maybe it could be a 9 out of 10. Maybe. But a couple of things I really don't like. The jewel changes. I actually really do not like the jewel changes. The more I've kind of looked at what they were doing with jewels, the more I do not like it. And I think it's a step in the exact wrong direction. So the idea was to, I guess, shake up jewels. There's so much power in jewels, and GGG finds that that's a good thing, but because unique jewels are in an interesting place of making them too common, but also a lot of them kind of weak, that you're not really excited when a unique jewel drops. So what they said is, well, let's just get rid of all of them. We'll give you some ailment effect and reservation effect on your jewels. That's all you get back. But all of the other cool build enabling things, we're pretty much going to get rid of those. And some of the other ones, we're going to make them extremely difficult to get. That's what they did. And I don't understand why they did that. It's kind of a bummer. So there are a few jewels that we all know and love that are staying, like Lionized Fall, Inspired Learning, Intuitive Leap, Unending Hunger, Unnatural Instinct. These are staying. They're going to be found as item drops. They're probably going to be probably more rare than they are now. We'll see. But at least they're staying. And then a couple of the build enabling uniques like I guess like Fertile Mind. You have Fortress Covenant. I mean, they have Fragility. I don't know how many builds are using Fragility. Energy from Within, Inertia, Pacifism, Rain of Splinters stays, Seething Fury stays. Thank the fucking Lord. And that's pretty much it. Some of these other ones, I'm not sure how much use they get. Those all stay. You might be asking, and then some of the primordial ones stay. All of like the golem things stay. There's a bunch of Dead Reckoning stays. There's a couple other ones. All the combat focus stays, but they are vendor recipes, and they're not telling you what the vendor recipes are. So who knows if we'll even ever be able to get them? And all the other ones are gone. Okay, so what are you gonna do, right? And then they kind of rearrange how modifiers are rolled onto some of these gems, which is interesting. You can get mana reservation efficiency on your jewels. You can also get flash duration. That's great. Those are great changes. And then of course all of like the reduced ailment stuff is on your jewels now. On Abyss jewels, you can get like 50%, avoid bleed or whatever. So those are like semi good, but I just don't like the idea of just like removing complexity and intricacy from the game. I think there's just better ways to do that, and I don't know. I don't think that this is a good change. There's just a more smooth, better way to do it, I think, and I don't think this is the way. So yeah, I don't really like that change that much. That's probably the biggest thing that I don't like. That I don't like. They just, when they take things away, they never really give anything back, which is, I think people are kind of getting sick of that. Another thing I hate, I already talked about it, but I hate the doubling down on melee totems. I think that that's stupid. Decouple totems and melee, please. No one wants it. Everyone in the community is saying, we don't want this. Stop it. And what they did was they said, actually, we're double down on it. That kind of sucks. The main thing I think most people are upset about is there's no buffs to skills, which is unfortunate. We're not seeing any actual buff to skill. Now we're seeing a buff to curses, curse on hit. We're seeing a buff to just overall player power thanks to the removal of Arch Nemesis. But that doesn't make something like, I don't know, that doesn't make certain skills viable. That doesn't make us able to start playing other skills. We just don't want to keep starting the game with Helix, with Bone Shatter, with Seismic Trap. We want to be able to start the game with something else. And I don't know why GGG doesn't understand this. All you have to do is raise the floor. You don't have to raise the top end, just raise the floor. Doesn't make any sense. GGG is way too stingy on buffs. Way too stingy. And I think people are getting sick of that as well. Nightblade is the other thing that I kind of don't like. I just don't like the way that they nerfed Nightblade. I just feel it's very clunky, and no one really likes pendulum skills. So I kind of don't like that. And the last thing is crafting. Now, this could change, right? If the fracturing orbs are as common as the recombinators were in Sentinel, then crafting will be great. I mean, if you can imagine being able to reliably expect a fractured best, your best modifier fractured on every piece of gear that you need it, that's an extreme amount of power. And having that expectation allows you to, it's build enabling. It allows you to make builds that you weren't able to make before. Because if you can say, oh yeah, I can guarantee that I'm going to have this mod on this weapon, that makes it extremely strong. For instance, if we can just say, yes, we're going to have bows have 2 extra arrows, that opens up a lot of bow skills for an SSF player. Stuff like that. Like it's extremely build enabling when you are expecting to get certain things. And the fracturing orb, if it's common enough, can give us that. But if it's not, then crafting is still in a really rough spot, especially when there's no changes to harvest the rerolls, the weighting of the rerolls, when there's no, keep refixes, keep suffixes or prefixes, that's not coming back. The crafting is in a very iffy spot currently, but the fracturing orb could change it all. It could change it all. So we really need to wait and see on how that works out. And I think that's it. I mean, so if you ever hear someone saying there's nothing, to be excited about in this league, show them this video, because I just don't know where they're getting that information. It's just not, look at this image. Woo, my boy. It's just not of this reality. I guess if all you cared about was skill changes, then sure, there's nothing to be excited about. But we have a league mechanic that looks insane, like an absolute insane fun time, something to sink your teeth into. We have a bunch of new skills to play around with. We have a bunch of new farming stuff. It just looks super fun. We have a bunch of new buffed uniques. I mean, there's so much to be excited for. So I'm happy. I'm ready to go. And again, I'm starting SSF. I've never done this before. I've never started SSF. So we're going to be starting SSF. I'm going to be documenting it. And I want to be able to do the Lighty role. I think this was a super fun idea. I'm going to steal it. Lighty, I apologize, but this is a great idea and I want to try it. And yeah, check out, be on the lookout for that video. All right, peace.